This morning, the U.S. and the world bracing for food shortages as the war in Ukraine rages on. President Biden, speaking to NATO leaders in Brussels Thursday, said because of sanctions on Russia, food shortages are coming.
With regard to food shortage, yes, we did talk about food shortages. And it's going to be real with both to end trade restrictions on sending limitations on sending food abroad.
What we've got here is failure to communicate. Some men you just can't reach.
And less food means higher prices on top of already high inflation rates.
This tranquil farm in France's countryside is thousands of kilometers from the destruction in Ukraine. But Isabelle Le Balleur says collateral damage from the conflict is being felt here on her green pastures. Today there is a direct impact on our farm, she says. Her animals eat grain, and Le Balleur says the price per ton has more than doubled since the war began. Not to mention the sharp rise in the cost of fuel and her inability to sell her animals for more, an equation she describes as unbearable.
The U.S. is producing less wheat than it used to. About 44 million tons were harvested last season compared to 50 million 3 years ago.
Let's now talk about something else that's happening around the country. Apart from the exams going on right now, this drought situation, it's a hunger crisis happening in 23 counties. The numbers are looking so bad. The number of Kenyans facing starvation has risen from 2.8 million to 3.1 million in the last 3 months, affecting some 23 counties.
In the parched landscape of Mandera County, residents count losses. Jutting ribs and shriveled hides tell the story of death. Hundreds of their livestock felled by heat and hunger. It is pure sorrow for both man and livestock.
Up and down the aisles of this Whole Foods outside San Francisco.
A lot of produce was just out. Like the green onions gone, like the apples I was looking for weren't there.
To this ShopRite in New Jersey.
Some of the water was missing last time, some of the cereals were missing.
Shoppers across the country are being met with empty shelves.
Yeah, I don't know. So I kind of told myself when I was putting these videos together that I would leave the human element out. What I mean by that is I don't want to insult a person's character. You know, Stephen and Jesus said, forgive those, for they do not know what they're doing. And Stephen actually said, you know, don't count this against them. Okay? No matter the evil they were doing, murdering this man, he said, do not hold this against these people. Okay? Now, people have no idea what they're doing at all. Okay? They don't. And if we're going to actually come at these people and insult their character, what I did with Mr. Biden, yeah, it's a cheap shot. We're talking about the food crisis, the coming food shortage, however you want to look at it. So basically, they come out and said that, you know, we're going to have a food shortage. And I would beg to differ that it all of a sudden started with this war. Okay. Now we know through the pandemic that we had some issues with supply chain. People, the reason why we had that is a lot of places were closed. They sent their employees home and things were slowed down. And then, you know, people kept showing up to work sick, so they sent them home. And a lot of days, weeks, months went by with all these employees off. And then they couldn't get their product on time. The shipments were slower. The vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, we're not going to work. We're short of workers because we can't bring these guys in who are not vaccinated. And what we did was we disrupted the supply chain, right? So, what happened is that Mr. Biden came out and said that we're going to have a food shortage, right? And we need to assess that, and telling people. Now, I look at it this way. When the government or social media or these elites or the globalists or whoever you want to call them come out and start telling you that something's going to happen, then it's pretty much going to happen. Okay. But I beg to differ with the war thing, because as you can see in this video, this came out, not a video, I'm sorry. This article came out November 4th of 2022, which was way before Mr. Biden gave this food shortage, before they gave before this war started. And the headline reads, "I'm afraid we're going to have a food crisis." Okay. And the world is facing a prospect of dramatic shortfall in food production. Now, we were told that this was because of war in Ukraine, right? Russia war. And it says that, I want to say this loud and clear right now, is the risk is very low, crop and next harvest. Okay, so they knew that back in November of 21. And this guy is the CEO and president of Oslo-based company, and I'm afraid we're going to have a food crisis. Okay, they were at the COP26 climate conference, so they were already planning this back at the end of the pandemic, and so as we come through this and we see what's going on, we can pretty much they can pretty much dictate how they're going to bring about these happenings. Now, from what I understand, that these things are already been planned out. They do like the war games. They do all scenarios. Now, just like Mr. Putin, he came out, and you don't think that one night he had a dream or he thought about it before he went to bed and say, hey, I'm going to go over there and invade Ukraine. No, he's been planning this for quite some time, whether it was months or years or whatever. And maybe it escalated with the situation going on over there. Who knows? Who really knows? But from what I can understand, and this is about what I can understand, is that he took these situations and he put them together and said, okay, just lay all this stuff out. What's going to happen if this happens? What are we going to do if that happens? What happens if this is interfering? Okay. And just like he did all these kind of scenarios with all those guys, same as what we do, same as any other country, they get, they put this together. They get all the guys in different situations in different areas of the government to plan this all out, right? So whoever these elites are, the globalists and all these, they already planned this all out to happen in this sort of manner, okay? Whatever they did to Putin to promote him, to prod him to invade now, nobody really knows. I mean, except the people that did it, right? So if we go over to, the last 5 years, okay? We can go to the last 5 years, okay? So we're at 2022, we're at December 2024, March 14th, okay? Now, this is the wheat cost of a bushel of wheat, right? From March 14th. We're into the Ukraine war. We've all heard about the wheat shortages over there. They produce 1/3 of the world's wheat, Russia and Ukraine, right? So we're at $10.64. Now, if we jump over here, we're at 2012, or we jump way over here and we're at October 2007, which is just before, we're at $8.44 before the actual real estate collapse, the Great Recession, so it's called. Okay, now we're up here and we're at 2012, and we jump down to 50. We're going up here. Now we're climbing again, right? So we're before the pandemic, right? Medicine, we're into the pandemic, right? So let's say we're at August. Let's go to March. Okay, March is when we started the pandemic. Okay, we're at $5.16. We're at roughly half the cost that we were before the pandemic, right? And it's just as it's starting, we're half the cost of the pandemic, start of it, and then today, like I say, we're jumping way up here to where we're at now. Okay, and we're at $10.64 for the bush. So we actually doubled that. Now, this is today. This is this month or whatever cost of wheat. So we're actually transitioning into now. This not only affects the people that actually produce it, sell it, you and I, but this goes over to the third world countries, those who are starving, that buy this wheat. Now, a lot of these countries buy their wheat from Russia. Now, if Russia can't get their wheat out, there's a lot of these countries are buying their wheat still. They're not cutting Russia off. And if you know anything about farm production, winter wheat is obviously laid way into the fall, right? So you don't harvest winter wheat until the winter. I mean, until you're maybe November, December, at the latest, depends on what your climate is. And then you start planting the spring wheat about where we're at now in March, April, depends on what part of the world you're in. And you harvest it, maybe late spring. And then you have the summer wheat, fall. You're constantly replanting this wheat. Summer doesn't do too well because obviously you get into the drier months. But the fall, the winter wheat, that type of thing. But so as we can see here on this diagram, we're back over here and let's see. Yeah, we can go to a 5 year. We're at 5 year. So let's go to the start of the pandemic. And I say pandemic because this older gal, that's how she pronounced it. And I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. Why not? Okay. So we're 19. We're February. Let's go February. We're way down. And so beef prices per kilogram, right? We're way down to March, beginning of March, $4.47. We did some climbing in May of 2020. We jumped all the way up to $5.10 roughly. We came back down. And then now we're at, let's see, January. Let's say January. This is to January. January 20, we're at $5.97. So at the height of the pandemic, we haven't really per kilogram have gone up that much, really. I mean, we've seen a slight rise, and then we've seen a drop back down. But that fluctuates, right? I mean, we're fluctuating our cost of products. I mean, obviously, it might depend on the time of year, it might depend on, supply chains. It might be whatever the factors are, but they can fluctuate. I mean, it's not a big, huge fluctuation as we've seen. Like we did over here from August 2019 all the way to really, look at that. I mean, we're before the pandemic, right? We're as high as we are now. So I don't think so. Let's try something like poultry. Let's do the poultry. We did dairy, but I wanted to do poultry. So I don't see it. Here okay, I passed the poultry. You guys are probably looking at me like, well, what kind of freaking idiot is that? Now the poultry did the huge jump. I mean, here we are before the pandemic, right? And then we get to the pandemic, and we're at April 2020. We're at the lowest price in poultry, $1.27. Now we slowly climb through the Trump years, and we're going through the Trump years. We're raising the poultry. See, we're on a rise, right? So we go all the way up to January of 2022. We pretty much doubled the price of poultry per kilogram, right? So poultry's been on the rise, on a steady rise. Yeah, you can see it's been on a steady rise since April of 2020. I mean, we did have a little lag here, and then we're kind of, I mean, if you could draw an arrow all the way down, you could see that there's quite a bit of a rise. But even if we went back to here, January 2018, we pretty much doubled the price here. We're pretty much at that same, I mean, January, we're pretty much at the same price, right? I mean, as we were back. So this hysteria, we're fluctuating. I'm sure there's going to be some people that are going to take advantage of it. I know where I'm at, there's quite a bit of farmers, and you watch a lot of these farmers that are used to planting corn or soybeans, they're going to jump over to wheat. They're going to jump over to all these other products, corns, like I say, and wheat, and they're going to leave some of these other ones behind because the money is so valuable. Now, I raise chickens, and if I wanted to raise a meat bird chicken, I could raise that in 8 weeks. I could have that cleaned and processed and ready to go in 8 weeks. So a lot of these farmers, a lot of these livestock farmers, they're seeing the rise in the money into certain products, right? And they're gonna, just like when we did the whole ventilator deal. I mean, we had guys building ventilators like you wouldn't believe. We had people buying masks. I mean, you can drive down anywhere you want to go now, and you could find places that were making these masks, and they're pretty much dime a dozen anymore. As far as the whole M98, 95 shields, right? So, I mean, there's been a fluctuate price since in the last, God knows. I mean, depends on what the situation is. I mean, you look through the years of the whole real estate collapse, the Great Recession back in 2008, things tend to fluctuate, right? Down and up. It depends on, the supply and demand. So whatever they got going and whatever they're telling you that would be ready for some supply crisis, I'm going to take their word for it. Okay. So I hope that helps you guys out. I mean, I showed you some facts here that these are fluctuating. Obviously, we're on the rise on some of these products. And yeah, so you guys have a wonderful day. If you haven't subscribed yet, I appreciate you subscribing to my channel. Anywhere you're watching this video on many platforms, you subscribe, tell your friends, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, everybody you know. Push the like button. Please comment on my videos. It helps the algorithms, and it helps my ego also. So you guys have a great day. I will see you next time. Bye now.